Grand evening, everyone. It is 1600 hours in the evening on Sunday, March 15th, 2026, and we have massive new escalations and developments, especially in the Middle East and near Japan, especially the Sea of Japan, as we'll be talking about. I just wanted to put this on here, and I got even a different background set up there before we get into the news. It's been a while since I've done it this way. Let's see here. So we have one moment. I wonder if that makes much of a difference. No, not much. This is initially a live stream recording, as all of them are, posted to my YouTube channel, the live section of my YouTube channel. So we will start with the news right around here. Let's see. Okay, so we have about 5,000 Marines, lots of ships and sailors heading to the Middle East from the Indo-Pacific region, especially from places like Japan. That's mainly where those Marines are coming from. It's a Marine Expeditionary Unit, which consists of several warships, 5,000 Marines about, and almost the same amount, if not the same, of sailors. They are heading for the Middle East, especially Karg Island, where Iran has about 90% of their oil infrastructure of their own. So there are plans to take Karg Island, maybe destroy it, though the plans so far are to take the island, maybe use their oil infrastructure, which is probably quite different, and maybe in whatever language they speak, Arabic. Uh, though the machinery itself and the infrastructure, I suppose they'll just relabel everything. The infrastructure itself can still be used over there on Karg Island. So we'll see if the Marines capture the island and then the U.S. takes and uses that oil infrastructure over there. And it's a great place near the Strait of Hormuz, a very strategic location. Then we have this here from the Prime Minister's Office of Japan. This just happened recently, within the last 2 days. North Korea has launched a suspected ballistic missiles. More updates to follow. And then later after that, when further information came out from the insider paper, as you can see here, North Korea, they fired around 10 unidentified ballistic missiles, and that was also from the South Korean military reporting it. They fired about 10 unidentified ballistic missiles towards the Sea of Japan. Now, in this news, we have the Russian government saying that the US and Israel have failed to change Iran's regime and that a major disaster now awaits them both. So that's a strong signal from Russia that they may get further involved and that they see the regime change in Iran has failed. They're seeing it that way. Though through further military operation and the war there in Iran, once more of that is done, that's when they could do the full regime change. Though the Russians are seeing it as failed already, and they may even get further involved when it comes to Iran. The Russians and the Chinese are supporting Iran in every way that NATO has been supporting Ukraine. So it is even a possibility that the Russians give Iran nuclear weapons and material, everything they need to use against NATO and the US and Israel. So that's a very strong possibility, what they'll do further. Uh, we're going to get into that type of news, that same related news, very shortly. Then we have this here, the top U.S. petrochemical plant. It was fireballed. It all went on fire with Texas fuel tanks blazing. This was one of the most mind-blowing, surprising things I've seen. That was over in Pasadena, Texas, which is just southeast of Houston. Absolutely massive fire over there. I think the whole thing pretty much burned down. And that's going to affect a lot of the oil and gas industry here domestically in the US. That was the top US petrochem plant. Here's the video of that, one of them. Better. So this was in uh, this was in Pasadena, Texas. There was a couple recordings there. It happened maybe 2 days ago. It's going to have a massive effect on the oil market and the price of oil. This is the top U.S. petrochem plant in the country over there in Pasadena. It's likely the rest of it burned down or it's not usable after all of that fire, the blaze that happened there. On top of that, right now it's fire weather in Texas. We have a lot of very dry and hot weather, no rain in sight for over a week. So if there's another blaze like this or other fires that happen like massive wildfires, the embers from them will spread and that will cause even further fires all throughout Texas if massive fires kind of like this happen near, say, a forest or enough grass or wooded areas. There could be a massive blaze that happens throughout Texas with this prime fire weather conditions we have now. So this was an absolutely massive, surprising burning down of this top U.S. petrochem plant, and it will have a huge effect on the price of oil and everything related to it. especially here domestically in the United States. And I agree with this post here. It's easy to ignore most wars for most people because they are far away and don't impact people's lives. That's how a lot of people have viewed that in the past. So, as this last sentence here says, it's very true. I agree with it the most. This war is going to impact nearly every person on Earth in profound ways. It is World War III. It is doing so, and it will continue to do so until it is over, which it has no end in sight. It will not end unless there's a military victory of some kind or nuclear war happens, which is highly likely these days to happen sooner rather than later. Then we have another great, very interesting post from these two. Australia has about 2 weeks left of gas, 18 days left of gasoline, 16 days of diesel, and 14 days of aviation fuel. So that just goes to show that the first thing that is going to run out is the aviation fuel. The planes will stop flying. It's a special type of fuel that planes and jets use to fly. Australia is going to be totally out of all of that within 3 weeks. That is going to be really chaotic for Australia, especially. They're going to be out of gasoline that they could use. It'll be very scarce, very rare, and hard to find, uh, if at all, when it runs out. That's going to have a huge effect on Australia. Those people in Australia may experience, like he says, like a Mad Max scenario. It'll just result in total anarchy over there in Australia. So that is huge news there. Absolutely historic. And it looks like anarchy is coming first. One of the first countries may be Australia. I had to take a few sips of water. I was parched. Um, Tim Kennedy, this guy was in the special forces. He's a UFC fighter. Ranger, I believe it means Army Ranger. He was a sniper in the special forces, the U.S. Special Forces. And he recommends if you are trained, please stay armed every time you go out. We have some scary times ahead of us in the immediate future. That's exactly right. I highly recommend that to everyone as well. Every time you go out somewhere, you want to be armed, especially coming up, because it is going to be almost unaliving, self unaliving behavior to go outside somewhere in public, especially very busy areas, unarmed, because there is a high likelihood of sleeper cell attacks, terrorist attacks globally. This applies everywhere, especially Australia. They don't even have like weapons over there in Australia. They ban the weapons for people to use in most, if not all, parts of Australia. Maybe some people in the outback there are able to, though the overall population in Australia, it's nearly impossible for them to have weapons. They are very vulnerable. They heavily rely on first responders over there, and that's going to be an absolutely massive downfall for them. A huge disadvantage in Australia that they don't have even like access to weapons unless they were in the police, unless they are in the police or were in the police or are part of somewhere in the government over there. It's highly restrictive to get weapons there in Australia. Even some places here in the US, it's very difficult to obtain firearms and other weapons. Not so much other weapons, though firearms and ammunition. The price of ammunition is quite high right now as well. It's great to stock up on those things if you can and learn how to use them to perfection. Stick to your guns, as the saying goes, too. Learn and perfect the firearms and other weapons you may use, especially before it gets to this scary times ahead that Tim Kennedy there was mentioning. When it gets to that point, SHTF, it will be anarchy everywhere, besides way out in the country, um, in the most rural and remote areas. Only those areas will be somewhat safe from all of the anarchy that goes on in large and major cities all throughout the country and the world. It applies globally that way. So we have this here. This is a one of the largest bits of news here today. Sources are indicating that Iran may be readying a nuclear warhead obtained from North Korea. Independent confirmation is still unavailable. So we are waiting for further confirmation of that, though it is very likely there's some sources indicating that Iran is readying a nuclear warhead obtained from North Korea that they will likely use on Israel or the US. They could launch and detonate one maybe over the center of the US, cause a EMP effect. If they have even just one, all they need is one. They could either completely destroy Israel or they could detonate it over the US to cripple the US and its response. Um, that's all they would need to do, say to the US, to cause anarchy, or they could totally destroy it. They could nuke Israel and there will be nothing left with one nuclear weapon from North Korea. So that is huge, very concerning breaking news that came out recently. I believe they have received this nuclear warhead and they are readying it and they may use it. We will know soon on, say, Israel, which is the much more likely target. Absolutely very concerning news. That's how things could just absolutely escalate to total nuclear war uh, on the tactical nuclear level, maybe even have strategic nuclear weapons used on North Korea and Iran for that, for doing that, for detonating a nuclear weapon on Israel potentially or the US. So we need to keep preparing for potential nuclear war, learn all about fallout, radiation, how it all works, what to do when it comes to fallout. That is the most dangerous part of after a nuclear explosion. Very, very concerning that that may be true. It is very likely true that North Korea gave Iran a nuclear warhead. They have the missiles, though maybe even North Korea gave them the missile too that they could reach anywhere in the world to use it, to use the nuclear warhead. So it is very likely at this time, it is nearly confirmed. There are strong indications that North Korea gave Iran a nuclear warhead, and they may use it on Israel to totally wipe it out. There'll be no Israel. And or they could use it on the US and detonate it somewhere in the middle of the country, as I said before. Very concerning. So definitely learn about radiation, especially fallout. That is very important these days. Scary stuff how things are taking such a escalatory approach. It is rising further to that total likelihood of nuclear war. Then we have this here. In Russia, they put a new security zone around Putin's residence. It is very large, a very large security zone, and they left this port here, this entire port and coastline. They made it also part of the security zone. So one of the places President Putin stays at his residence there, if he's not in his bunker, they made a total security zone in and around Putin's residence. He's preparing for likely to be attacked by the Ukrainians, potentially the CIA, and other special forces. That's what that is for. If for some reason, again, he's not in his bunker, he has a doomsday bunker somewhere in the Ural Mountains. That's where one of his main doomsday bunkers are, somewhere in those mountains. And we have this here. There's a possibility the Japanese send warships to the Middle East. Japan says sending warships to the Middle East faces obstacles but is not ruled out. So there is still a possibility the Japanese send warships to the Middle East if necessary for the Japanese, if it is a good thing for them to do. Then we have this here, another bit of the largest news recently, the last few days. Taiwan has reported major Chinese military buildup near Taiwan. There is major Chinese military buildup outside of Taiwan. So, as it says here, China's watching closely. Taiwan has about 11 days of natural gas left. The supply from the Strait of Hormuz is now shut, except for China and very few other countries. It's a little more than China. Global semiconductors depend on Taiwan. President Xi of China told Putin he'd move on Taiwan amid the chaos. This is the chaos. Connect the dots, as it says there. So the global semiconductors, they depend on Taiwan. Taiwan is a very strategic place due to its production of the semiconductors they have there. They have the most advanced semiconductors, chips. some kind of advanced chips when it comes to like GPUs, CPUs. It has to do with the AI race. Whoever controls Taiwan or has good enough relations with them wins the AI race. And it is also a very strategic position near Japan and China. So it has been over a year that China has been preparing to invade Taiwan. It is expected to be within a year that China attacks Taiwan. And that will result in the US and the rest of NATO fighting China and Russia and the other allies of China and Russia. That's even more total World War III. It'll be much more recognized. It should be totally recognized now, though it is very directly World War III. That's fighting Russia and China directly in combat on the water, on land, and in the air. The U.S. has alliances with Taiwan as well. The U.S. will not stand by while Taiwan is being invaded and taken over by the Chinese. Neither will Japan. Neither would Australia. Australia may not be in the position to help anyone besides themselves soon when they run out of oil. Gasoline, that is. Very unfortunate for Australia. That's going to be really one chaotic continent over there. Now we have this here from First Squawk. Iran's Qatam al Anbiya headquarters warned that logistics centers providing support to the USS Gerald Ford are considered targets, according to the Fars news agency. Another spokesperson for that headquarters stated that the presence of the U.S. aircraft carrier Gerald Ford in the Red Sea is a direct threat to Iran. So they are going to target the logistics centers providing support to the USS Gerald Ford, and then they're going to target, maybe even at the same time, the U.S. aircraft carrier, the Gerald Ford, and that strike carrier group that is over there. That aircraft carrier is a nuclear powered aircraft carrier, so it being destroyed will cause a nuclear radiological disaster on the water, and that'll be a whole nother problem on top of all of those casualties that happen from that, and likely a nuclear response from the US if that gets sunk. Thousands of sailors and Marines would die if that aircraft carrier goes down, which Iran is about to target it very soon. Any moment, Iran is going to target those logistics centers that are supporting the USS Gerald Ford, and they're going to target the USS Gerald Ford itself and the other ships around it. That is just one of the strike carrier groups that are over there. That is the largest, I believe, strike carrier group. We have the USS Abraham Lincoln still over there. That strike carrier group. France, their strike carrier group will be arriving soon. If not, it is there now. in the Middle East. It is very close to the Middle East at this time. The UK is still deciding how involved they're going to get. I believe they just sent a couple of fighter jets so far. The UK may get further involved in World War III as well. So keep on preparing, top off, especially on gas very soon, as it is expected to go through the roof. The oil market opens in less than 30 minutes now, and it is expected to go off the charts. The price of oil right now is over $100 per barrel. It is, yep, it's about $100 per barrel right now. It is over $100 per barrel for Brent crude. It is $103 per barrel for Brent crude. So the price of oil is rising and rising. I think the high recently was $120 per barrel. Shortly after the oil market opens, it will at least go to that price. Shortly after. And then sometime after that, I expect the price of oil to go to $200 per barrel. And then sometime after that, if there's no nuclear war or something like that going on, which nuclear war is very likely right now, it will go to $500 per barrel for oil. That is over $10 per gallon for oil, for gasoline. The price of gas is right now over $5 for diesel gasoline. Nearly unaffordable already. That is like nationwide about $5 per gallon for diesel. It is about $4 per gallon for regular gasoline. Very high gas prices, and it is going to skyrocket. It will go off the charts in time to $500 per barrel in time. Unseen, unprecedented, off the charts is where the price of oil is going. And the times ahead, of course. So please keep on preparing, especially learn knowledge and prepare for potential nuclear war that could happen at any moment now. Let me see if I have further news here. Israel has been attacked in a very large way recently, though they have not actually taken out, they have not unalived Benjamin Netanyahu. He is alive somewhere. There is no total direct confirmation that he's been unalived. He may be injured somewhere, though it is not said that he is not here, that he is dead. So we'll see when he speaks next. I don't believe he's dead. So we'll see when he speaks next. He stays in bunkers, very secure locations. They have a lot of air defense over Israel. It would be nearly impossible for them to do that right now until the air defense is totally taken out of Israel. That's when they could target him very accurately and other locations in Israel. There won't be anything stopping the missiles from Iran. So the war continues. It is not ending anytime soon. It's not going to end next week. It's not going to end in September. It will continue to go on until regime change in Iran or the other countries involved are defeated, like the US and Israel, or then we have the other thing, the Chinese and Russia, especially the Chinese, to worry about coming up. That will be another front that opens up very soon. The US will soon be fighting the Chinese and the Russians when the invasion on Taiwan begins. So keep on preparing. I will be back very soon with further updates and analysis, news, everything talking about this World War III we have happening now. I cannot emphasize enough to prepare as best you can to learn about nuclear war, radiation, and fallout, and to gather physical assets, firearms, ammunition, and other weapons and tools for these times ahead. They will be incredibly useful. They have intrinsic value of their own, and they will all be incredibly useful in their own way. I will be back likely Wednesday sometime or tomorrow or Wednesday. For now, love, light, and blessings to you all. This has gone on for almost 40 minutes. This will be posted to my YouTube channel. You'll all be able to replay it there at any time. Love, light, and blessings to you all once again.